Select, yeah. Right, there's Megan. How? So it's not audible.
We are waving.
She can't see us.
Hello? Hello? Okay, that should be, hold on. Hello? Hello? No? Hello?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good.
All right.
Perfect.
I'll give everyone a couple of moments. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd just like to ask whoever's standing to take their seats, please. Good afternoon, Your Excellencies, esteemed Advisory Committee, network members, and distinguished delegates. I address you today with appreciation and an extended thank you to the United Nations Office for Partnerships team. I am proud to welcome the industry innovators, disruptors, and changemakers that gather here today for the inaugural annual meeting of the United Nations Conscious Fashion and Lifestyle Network. The global representation of our participants sends a strong signal that the Sustainable Development Goals are an important framework for the fashion and lifestyle sectors to lead a sustainable and inclusive COVID-19 recovery. Today, we will highlight actions, solutions, and progress from the fashion and lifestyle industries, reviewing how the network is fostering transparent, inclusive, and transformative engagement of global stakeholders to drive urgent action for sustainability. I believe a common thread brings us here together. It's our commitment to keeping the promise of the Sustainable Development Goals and ensuring that everyone, everywhere, can live in dignity, prosperity, and peace on a safe and healthy planet. I extend my gratitude to all of you, and especially to Arch & Hook, Chalik Denim, Messe Frankfurt, Recover, Tencel, the Lycra Company, and Millennium Hilton for supporting our work to advance industry engagement in the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. I would like to welcome, for our opening remarks, Ambassador Alexander Marschek, Permanent Representative of Austria to the United Nations. Mr. Ambassador, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thank you so much. And what a great event this is. And let me start with a big thank you to UN Partnerships, UN DESA, and the Fashion Impact Fund for organizing this meeting of the UN Conscious Fashion and Lifestyle Network. And thanks so much for inviting me to say a couple of words. I have to admit that my friends and colleagues were a bit incredulous when I told them that I would be participating at a UN Fashion Network event. UN diplomats are not necessarily known for their fashion sense. We're all a bit corporate vintage. And while there's no lack of statements here at the UN, there are few fashion statements. But this is, of course, a much too narrow way of looking at things. Fashion is so much more than style. Fashion is culture, art, and science. Fashion is power, ideology, politics. And fashion is an enormous economic and social factor, a leading global industry of significant proportions. Clothing and textiles are an estimated $3 trillion global industry. That's over 2% of global GDP. After automotive and tech, fashion is the third largest manufacturing industry worldwide, and it is expected to grow over the coming years. The industry's value chains span the globe, involving players of all sizes and from all market segments. 1 in 6 people in the world has a job that is somehow related to the fashion industry. So that is a really significant global player. And as such, we need you here at the United Nations. As you know, the UN currently faces a multitude of challenges. Conflicts like the Russian war against Ukraine and its devastating impact on food security, energy, and finance. security crisis, Syria, Yemen, Mali, Myanmar, health crises, especially the COVID pandemic with its brutal social and economic consequences, the proliferation of weapons from small arms to nuclear arms, and the climate crisis, perhaps the most complex and far-reaching challenge of all. No country, not a single country, can deal with these challenges individually. So we try to address them here together under the leadership of the United Nations. But doing things together has become much more difficult over the past years. Everyone now lives in their own smartphone world. I have my friends, I have my playlists, I have my shows, my information sources. It's my world. And I love my world because in my world, it's always me first. Agreeing on complex policy strategies at the UN has become as complicated as agreeing on a Sunday night family movie at home. The COVID pandemic has increased this trend of individualist isolation. We have to counter that. We have to discover, rediscover the art of compromise, the advantage of cooperation. Meetings like this one, where we link up players, key players, work and help us rediscover the art of compromise. They generate mutual understanding, cooperation, and trust, and help us escape our isolation silos. As you know, to address the economic, social, and environmental challenges of our time, the UN elaborated an agenda with 17 SDGs. They affect all aspects of our life, and we hope here at the UN to achieve them by 2030. Only if we tackle all issues simultaneously, comprehensively, and everyone together will we have a chance to slow down climate change, fight poverty and hunger, and create a peaceful, just, and inclusive society. But to be very blunt and honest, it does not look good. In his latest progress report on the SDGs, Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned that years of progress are now being lost due to the multiple crises that we face. Up to 95 million people have been pushed into extreme poverty recently. Carbon dioxide emissions are set to increase up to 14% this decade, even though we have already been working on efforts to slow this down. And we face major risks due to plastic pollution, deforestation, land degradation, and biodiversity loss. Clearly, these challenges transcend the capabilities of any single actor. We can only succeed if everyone participates. Private and public businesses, the arts, the media, academia, everyone. As a significant global player, the fashion industry and its associated sectors, shipping, packaging, advertisement, sales, media, you can make a really significant contribution to rescue the SDGs. An employer of 300 million people, many of whom are women, it can improve social conditions and educate at the workplace about the SDGs. As an inventor, developer, and producer of garments, it can reduce waste, use renewable energy and sustainable materials, and have a major impact how we produce and consume. Just one very short example. Fashion industry consumes around 215 trillion liters of water per year. That's just an enormous amount of water. And we'll definitely need your help when we go to the next conferences like the UN Water Conference 2023 and look for your help and assistance in this. As a global influencer, the fashion industry and the fashion press can slow market cycles, promote SDG-compatible trends such as circularity, and counter wasteful lifestyles. With your contribution, we can tackle up to 10% of global carbon emissions, reduce 35% of microplastics in our oceans, and make sure that up to 100 billion worth of materials which are currently lost every year are recycled. So while the picture overall is not good, there are still some positive developments as well. Some companies have emerged as leaders in environmental and social reforms, and some are present here today. And as an Austrian, I have to say I'm proud to mention one, Lenzing, an Austrian company that invested heavily in wood-based specialty fibers and promoted circularity in the fashion industry. That's one example from Austria. But of course, there are many more around the world, and we will hear from them today. And we states, we governments, will try to help these contributions of these private companies become better known and encourage others to follow. So we have 8 years to go to complete the SDGs. That's 32 regular fashion seasons. It's not a lot of time, but with your help, with the active involvement of industry leaders, cultural icons, influential fashion press, the fashion and lifestyle sector can make a difference, a real contribution to healing the planet, keeping it livable for our kids and for future generations. That wouldn't be a local trend, not a seasonal collection, not a fast fashion bubble. That, ladies and gentlemen, would be a real global fashion statement for the ages. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. And now I'd like to welcome for special remarks Anne-Marie Hu, Executive Director of the United Nations Office for Partnerships.
Excellencies, distinguished guests and friends, a great good afternoon to all of you. On behalf of the United Nations Office for Partnerships, I'm delighted to be here at the inaugural meeting of the United Nations Conscious Fashion and Lifestyle Network. This is really a milestone event, which we are privileged and excited to host in person in the ECOSOC Council chamber. It's wonderful to see people here where dialogue takes place, action happens, policy follows, change. And you are all change makers here today. I would like to extend a very special and warm thank you to Ambassador Marczek for his inspirational remarks and a very forward fashion statement. Your valuable thoughts and insights will inform and help shape the work of our network going forward. And many thanks to Carrie. Carrie Bannigan and her team have been working with us to make this event possible. Carrie, you are an inspiration. You are catalyzing change in the fashion industry. You rock. If the Sustainable Development Goals are going to be achieved by 2030, we need accelerated action across all sectors. We need you, and we need the fashion industry to continue to grow your sustainability role. Today, we're going to recognize leaders in our network who are driving innovation, collaboration, and engagement to keep the promise of the SDGs through sustainable fashion. We will learn how companies, nonprofits, and the media are leading the shift to a future of sustainable fashion, from eliminating single-use plastics, expanding the use of carbon-neutral fibers, to champion inclusion and equality, and much, much more. I'm just looking around the room. How many of you have a water bottle today? See, look, the UN a couple of years ago said no to single-use plastic, and that included tons and tons and millions of bottles of water that we would all bring into this room. And now this is like the latest accessory, is to have your water and your drinks with you in a very sustainable way. So thank you very much. And it's just one of the things that the next generation of consumers is demanding, that we need to transition to renewable energy, ultimately keep the commitment of the Paris Agreement of 1.5 degrees. As the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said, we must change the way we produce and consume. We need to build resilience and better adapt to future shocks. If you could join me in looking up to the ceiling, you will see that part of the ceiling is still a work in progress, that this is what it means to be here in the ECOSOC chamber, that we have unfinished business to do. Together, we can shape the future of fashion through innovation, transparency, and collaboration, with sustainability at its heart. I look forward to hearing from you and celebrating your future successes already. To start off, I would like to introduce a video message from a few of our network members sharing their global voices on how collaboration can transform fashion for people and for our planet. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Saraswat Sanimaino, Creative Talent Curator. I do think that collaborations for fashion and for creating a better future, it's fundamental. Institutions need to really gather around and create awareness for the people outside to make understand how fashion is moving and what's being done right now. And this is something that can be done just creating a system and creating collaborations between institutions. So I do think this is fundamental for now and for the future. Thank you.
Hi there, Christopher Rayburn, Creative Director for Rayburn Design here in London, and then also Collaborator at Large for Timberland. So, the big question, how can collaboration transform fashion for people and the planet? Collaboration is absolutely key. Working within our own industry, so fashion, looking upstream, looking at materials, working how we can create together and work in a much more positive way, and then how we can think cross-industry, how we can learn from others. And it's only by working together that we're truly going to make a difference on a global scale.
Collaboration is the only way forward for the fashion industry to thrive while doing right by people and the planet. For us at Remake, it's how we pass effective policy, like the newly introduced Fabric Act here in the United States, which has been supported by sustainable brands, manufacturers, citizens, and workers, all locking arms to say that we can together build a more ethical fashion industry.
Hi, I'm Safia Mini. I'm founder of People Tree and the Fashion Declares movement, bringing together fashion professionals throughout the industry to share best practice, to collaborate, to inspire each other in the ecological, climate and social emergency. And we need to look at the best collaborator of all, don't we? Nature, otherwise we wouldn't be in this mess.
Hi, my name is Anyango Mpenga, and I believe that collaboration is the cornerstone of building stronger and more inclusive economies.
Hi everyone, my name is Javam and I'm the founder and creative director at Benno. I believe that collaboration can compel us to find non-traditional solutions for very traditional industries.
My name's Grace Forrest and I'm the co-founder and director of Walk Free, an international human rights group focused on the eradication of modern slavery in all its forms. I believe the fashion industry can transform for people and planet by instilling true transparency and accountability for people at every level of the supply chain.
Hello, I'm Runa Ray, a fashion environmentalist and the founder of Mojo Design Studios. Collaborations in fashion involving the SDGs connect the world, create greater trust, and unite people for the planet.
I want to say a big thank you to all those voices. Many in there couldn't join us today, so we wanted to make sure they were included. Now we would like to welcome to the stage for an In Conversation, moderated by Sheena Butler-Young, senior correspondent of the Business of Fashion, having a great conversation with Tracy Reese, founder and creative director, Hope for Flowers by Tracy Reese.
Everyone, I'm so excited to be here today. I hope you can hear me. This is new. I'm used to Zoom. Tracy, I'm really excited to be in conversation with you. You've had such an illustrious career in fashion. I have like a list of partnerships I'm going to list off that really make me feel inferior, quite frankly. You've managed to work with Bergdorf Goodman and Barney's and Anthropologie, Nordstrom, Neiman Marcus, like all of the designers' dream partnerships. You've had them. You've had these really great A-list clients, from Michelle Obama to Oprah Winfrey and Tracee Ellis Ross and Sarah Jessica Parker. Anyone else feeling inferior as I go on? And in 2019, you made a decision to launch a collection, Hope for Flowers, that's responsibly designed and produced. So after 2 decades and all those achievements that I just described, you made a pivot, right? You wanted to change your brand journey to be more responsible. What inspired that?
So many things. So many things. Hello, everyone. I'm honored to be here, and thank you, Sheena. I think as I learned more and more about fashion's footprint in the world, I realized that it was my responsibility and desire to learn how to work more responsibly. And, luckily for me, I was kind of at a turning point in my prior business, and I saw this as an opportunity to start fresh. I think one of the biggest challenges in our industry is how to pivot, how to change, how to address all of these issues. And I think, most companies that are large especially, it's like turning a giant ship. It's really challenging. And to start fresh with, all of what I'd learned, I actually did a residency at CFDA. It was sponsored by Lexus, which was all about designing responsibly and working more responsibly in our industry. And I learned so much about the UN SDGs, just about fashion's footprint. I went to the Copenhagen Fashion Summit, and that was eye-opening as well. And I just thought to myself, I'm more intelligent than this. Why am I playing by this old industry rule book when it doesn't suit me anymore, and it's definitely not healthy for the planet? And for me, especially when we look at the exploitation of workers along the supply chain in our industry, it's really sad. There are not words. And I knew I wanted to be a part of doing it differently for myself, as well as for my customers and my community.
Amazing. And you're thinking about Hope for Flowers through the context of people, the planet, and obviously profit. It's still a business. Talk to me about how you're orienting your production towards all three of those things. And maybe we'll start with sort of the obvious one, which is the planet, and then we'll talk about people and profit.
Right. Yeah. I decided on the name Hope for Flowers because it does embody, my hopes for the planet, but also for people, especially young people. And I feel that, there's a seed in each of us that deserves to be nurtured. And we all have to turn back to the source, to Mother Earth, and be a more productive and, not just productive, but we have to give back to our communities. For Hope for Flowers, the easiest place for me to make a difference in terms of our products was to work with more responsible textiles. So I've gone from, going to Premier Vision in Paris and selecting, from thousands and thousands of incredible textiles that aren't necessarily earth-friendly in their production, to working with a very short list of textiles that I feel and have learned are much more safe for the planet and leave a much smaller footprint. That's the first place we start. I moved my whole business to Detroit, Michigan, which is my hometown. And it's easier to function in this smaller environment. There's less distraction. But I also have the opportunity to make a difference in my home community by employing Detroiters and training people in Detroit to do this work. And we're training, from scratch, where we are considering, what our footprint is, what our community, what we're giving to our community at the same time. And that's part of our mission, is to also work within the community to educate about fashion, about just living more responsibly or sustainably. We have workshops around things like recycling because everybody doesn't have a blue bin, and we have art classes for young people on Saturdays so that they can express themselves creatively while learning how to make something beautiful with materials that already exist. So you don't have to go out and buy brand new things all the time. We have so many beautiful things in our lives and so many forgotten things in our drawers and closets. So they create artwork from found items and upcycled things, which is really cool. And we also have adult classes on Thursday nights. Same idea, but it's really about community. It's about learning how to live responsibly, how to give back to our communities, and Also, I have the opportunity to collaborate with a lot of local artisans and craftspeople, and I think that we, have distanced ourselves from the production of clothing, and we forget that there are humans at every step along the way. And I think especially here in the US, where we don't make anything anymore, the people who are making our products live thousands and thousands of miles away, and if their quality of life is not as lovely as ours, it's out of sight, out of mind. And we have to be a part of making the products that we use so that we can elevate the voices of all of the craftspeople and artisans and workers along the supply chain.
Excellent. I think you make a really great point around sort of having the connectedness to the artisans, the people making the things that you feel a greater motivation to do right by them. I think that's really important. You have a business, right? There are a lot of people, I work at the business of fashion, we're always talking about sustainability, but there's always questions around profitability.
Yes.
How do you think about maintaining the fact that you have payroll and a business, but yet you need to be planet and community oriented? What's the profit component in the production?
It's challenging, but it is possible. I think it's working differently for sure. We have to practice a lot of cost-saving measures along the way, things that I didn't really consider in my older business. Everything from how many packages we send overseas to how we use paper in our office, and we're not making 1,000 color copies every day like we used to. And recycling within the office, upcycling things within the office. So it's day-to-day stuff, teaching ourselves new habits. We're starting to compost in the office, which is brand new. So, it's day-to-day things that grow into larger initiatives. So, but in terms of profitability, we need the whole industry to get on board and participate in this. It's sometimes disappointing, when you go on the website of a major retailer and there's no mention of responsible fashion. It's just, product, and no mention of where it's from or how it's created. And I think we need so much more industry buy-in. We need the support of the key players in our industry to raise awareness about responsible fashion so that the customers are, they can start to look for it and find it on these sites and know that it's important. Because right now it's a side note, it's a postscript, and that affects profitability.
Absolutely. I love that you talked about, the steps you're taking that can be really small. They don't have to start with you overhauling or, as you said earlier, turning a big ship around, because that's not an overnight thing. Talk to me about the importance of pace and patience and perhaps simplicity as you approach the idea of having a sustainable fashion business.
Right, and those are beautiful words, pace, patience, and simplicity. I think in this highly technological world, there are so many advances, and it has increased our output exponentially. And in my old business, as we learned new technologies, we went from doing things by hand, illustrating prints and things like that, to everything becoming digital. And you could do more in a day. You could create more prints. You could color in more paper dolls. You could create bigger collections. And there's just more. And pretty soon the business is running you instead of the other way around, and some of your enjoyment in the process is decreased. And part of the reason I wanted to start Hope for Flowers was I wanted to get back to everything I loved about design and about creating things, and that does require me to, be at a mannequin and be a part of, draping a new style or sewing something by hand again, or, painting a print that, was in the back of my mind instead of, everything being digital and fast. We have to have patience. Right now, we're starting to train people in Detroit to sew our products. It will take time, for them to reach a level of mastery that's competitive with what we can do overseas. But it's important that we take that time And I've been very blessed to have some foundational support so that we can be patient with this process and stay the course of training people to work locally.
Yeah, foundational support is hugely important. I was thinking about partnerships and even just the forum that we have today, the importance of collaboration in terms of getting the change going and actually moving the needle on some of this. How important is partnership and collaboration as you think about growing your business, growing your impact on sustainability? How important do you lean into partners?
Partnerships are everything, and I think it's so necessary as we look toward a future of working more responsibly. We can't do it in isolation. We cannot do it in sort of like a me-first mentality. We all have to move forward together. If there's innovation in this sector that's going to help us use less water, pollute less water, make the work much easier for people along the supply chain, we have to share that innovation, we have to share that technology. I think that intellectual property is important, but we have to trust that we all have our own unique voices, and we're going to use the information in our own unique ways, and kind of set aside some of the competitive attitude that is very much a part of this industry. So partnerships are everything, and we learn together, we grow together, we improve how we work together. But I think if you're just thinking about yourself and how you can get ahead and grow your own business and line your own pockets, we're not going to get anywhere.
It's such an important leadership quality to identify where you can collaborate and where you can be competitive. I think that's really commendable. I love your design philosophy around bringing out the beauty in women of all shapes, sizes, and colors. What does that mean, and why is inclusivity so important? I mean, it's always been important, but it feels more critical right now. Talk to me about that.
Inclusivity has always been important to me as someone who has been othered throughout my life and career. I always want to see myself represented. It's interesting when we see our clothes on women of different colors, different sizes, different shapes, and they each bring something unique and beautiful, to the clothing. You realize, okay, there is no muse. The muse is every woman. That used to be one of the most annoying questions I would get, behind stage at Runway was, who was your muse for this collection? And it's just like, that's so not who I am and not who I perceive my customer to be. Every woman is a muse. If you're short, tall, fat, thin, brown, yellow, white, green, whatever you are my muse. I want you to feel beautiful in my clothing. And, as much as we can expand to suit different people in different parts of the world and different cultures, that's definitely a goal.
Every woman is a muse will be on a Post-it behind every Zoom call I host from here on out. You have a role, I think so many brands have this role, and maybe they don't realize it, that as we think about climate change, sustainability, and the goals around that so much of it falls on designers and brands to educate and incentivize consumers. We hear a lot of conversation that consumers and Gen Z especially, they're values-driven, they really, really care. But a lot of the education to take that to a call to action comes from you. How do you think about educating and incentivizing the customer around these things?
I think education is everything. It's interesting when, I do talks in Detroit and I try to make myself available for that, and we talk about, fast fashion and the true cost and X, Y, and Z. Most people's minds are blown. They don't know. They don't know that by making those choices, they're actually helping keep people, I call it keeping people in slavery. If you're making, 25 cents or 50 cents to sew a garment, and you can't support your family and keep a roof over your head and pay your bills, then I don't want to contribute to keeping you in that situation. And I think as people learn about that, and it feels personal, You know, one of the things we learned at the Copenhagen Fashion Summit, which I didn't know, and, you know, statistics are what they are, you know, 80% of the people that are making our clothes are women of color. That's all you need to say to me, you know, and to so many others. It's like, how can it be okay with me that these people are forced into a lower quality of life than I have? That's not acceptable. And I think once people really understand that, it becomes very personal. And they really consider their choices much differently.
You talked about a lot of the work you're doing in Detroit, and I think in that you're describing social impact. Is there anything you would add to sort of the role that you see yourself playing in empowering women and younger communities with your brand, social impact? How important is that, and what are some of the ways you're doing it beyond the amazing things you've already shared?
Right. Well, sorry. Mm-hmm. Got to get a handle on the system. More to come. I mean, our next initiative is apprenticeships within our business, really working very closely with local makers and artisans so that they are equipped to compete and play a role in our industry. That's huge for me, and it benefits our business because we get to collaborate with really talented people, but they get to learn more about the industry and its functioning, about the seasons, about wholesaling, about retail, all of the above. So that's our next initiative. It's really important to me to be able to offer these opportunities in Detroit. I'm very proud of my hometown. And there's a lot of talent there. And we're a city that makes things. That manufacturing is in our DNA. So, you know, there are a lot of initiatives going on in the city right now that surround fashion and lifestyle and how we can play a bigger role in right-shoring some of the work that our industry needs to have done.
If I had a fashion brand and I came to you and I wanted to be more responsible in my design and my production and I didn't know where to start, but I wanted to do it today, what would be the most important piece of advice that you'd give me as a first step I could take?
Sourcing, textile sourcing and manufacturing sourcing. Know where you're manufacturing. I mean, I've been in the factories that I manufacture in, and I've worked there for, you know, days and days at a time, and I know the quality of life. I know how they're treating workers within the system, but also when it comes to sourcing textiles, you have to it's really challenging to source textiles that you know are actually responsibly produced. But you have to stay the course, and you can't feel defeated if you hit a wall. You really just have to keep going. It's not simple, but it's definitely doable. And you have to start somewhere. You can start small. You can pick one initiative. I'm going to use more responsibly produced textiles. That's very simple. That's 80% of your footprint right there. 80% of the footprint of a garment is in the textiles. So I think that's where I would tell anyone to start.
What do you see as the biggest challenge as you look into the industry, fashion as a whole, and brands' adaptation? Textiles, it's a first step, but why are so many companies so behind on taking it? What is the biggest challenge that they're facing in getting there, would you say?
Cost. The cost of clothing has deflated. The average price of clothing has deflated due to fast fashion. So when we look at the cost of a garment, the greatest cost is labor and textiles. And for many garments, it's the textiles more than labor, which is kind of backwards too. But it is cost. I mean, we have stores, you know, that are looking for prices that are competitive with fast fashion. So as much as we're upset with fast fashion makers, we also have to be concerned about every single retailer who is coming to brands asking you to compete with those prices. So that's a massive deterrent, you know, for a lot of companies and brands. If we shine a light on craftsmanship, on handwork, on all of the incredibly talented people who make our clothes, and we can help elevate the status of making. Hopefully we can encourage people to consider that in their choices when they're making purchases. If you can afford to do better, you absolutely must. Don't carry a Gucci bag and wear a dress from H&M. You know, it's backward, but a lot of people shop that way. So if you can afford a $3,000 purse, you can definitely afford a $300 dress. You know, so we have to change how we're thinking. And, you know, if your budget is such that you have to shop in these places, that's real, that's life. And options have to be available for you. But so many people can afford to do better than they are. And we don't have to have so much. You know, and that's the first thing. You know, we get hit with marketing and social media that's telling us we have to have new things all the time, and here's me in 6 cute outfits. It's like, you don't need 6 cute outfits. And, you know, it's really dangerous within our industry to say, to try to tell people they don't need so much when, you know, we're promoting the sale of new clothing all the time. But you have to be able to say, enough, this is enough for me. You know, with this new business, I'm not looking for a global business or world domination. I'm looking for a business that's profitable, that is an integral part of its community, that gives back. You know, and we each have to say at a certain point, this is enough. It's enough to have a successful business. It doesn't have to be massive. It doesn't have to be, you know, in every country on the planet. It doesn't have to have, you know, a rollout of more and more stores. You know, everybody's always asking what's next, and you feel compelled to have a what's next on your list. Well, now we're doing this, or this is the next product that we have, or this is the next market we're entering. And it's not good for the planet. It's not good for people. It's not good for creativity. You know, you're not in charge of your destiny anymore. You know, so I think we have to be able to say when enough is enough. And enough should be when you're happy, you're profitable, you're paying your people their value.
I was going to be the fashion journalist that asks what's next, but I'm going to just scratch that question. No, you're doing such incredible work, and you're sort of, you know, the industry is trying to catch up, I hope, but you're still an outlier. All of what you said is so incredible, but the question that I would ask instead of what's next is, how do you keep motivated? There's so much work. We talk about keeping it simple, but when you look out, it's like looking at the ocean. It's so big, it's so vast, there's so much to be done. You're taking the steps. How do you keep that going? What would you say to our industry that's thinking about it, but afraid because it looks like so much work? How to stay motivated, inspired, and remembering to be a part of the change that we all want to see?
I think just get started, and it's okay to start small. This is a journey, you know, and I don't know if I'll ever reach the destination. You know, I'm starting with fabrics, I'm, you know, starting with training. I'm still having trouble with buttons and poly bags and hangers and things like that. So every season is a journey. You know, it's very motivating to know that there's a lot left to do, actually, and I'm someone who thrives on a challenge. But I think don't be afraid. I think plan to start somewhere. Get your teams on board. Get your management on board. Get your executive team on board. Get everybody who walks in the door on board and make them a part of creating solutions. Let everybody brainstorm together about how we can do better. And if we can do that within each company, you know, and come together as a unified industry, and be honest about it. I mean, the whole competitive atmosphere, where does it end? Where does it end? So I think, you know, I want to be a part of thinking and doing things differently.
Amazing. I think if there were keywords, it's pace, patience, simplicity, getting started, collaborating, partnership. Is there anything else you would add? I think we covered it. Have we solved sustainability today, or is it still work to be done?
But design and creativity are key. And, the definition of design is problem solving. We're solving problems. So none of us can afford to be complacent. We have to keep designing our future.
I think you said it. Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheena.
Is it on? It's on. Okay. I'm just getting back in person myself, folks, sorry. And if you're on Zoom with me, you know how that goes. So big thank you to Sheena and Tracy. That was a fantastic conversation. Now we'd like to welcome our next session. It's Climate Action, Innovative by Nature. It's going to be moderated by Fernanda Simone, Sustainability Editor of Vogue Brazil and Director of Fashion Revolution Brazil. Welcome them to the stage.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome, dear speakers. I'm Fernanda Simon, a Brazilian activist, Director of Fashion Revolution Brazil, and also Sustainability Editor for Vogue Brazil. It's a pleasure to be here with this brilliant woman. So today I will be talking to Tricia Carey, who is Director of Business Development Americas and Denim from Tencel Fibers. Mara Hoffman, who is the owner and creative director of Mara Hoffman Inc. Welcome. And Stephanie Benedetto, who is the CEO and co-founder of Queens of Raw. Welcome. And well, before we start the conversation, we have a video from Lindita, right?
Hello. My name is Lindita Jaferi Salihu, and I serve at the UN Climate Change Secretariat in Bonn, Germany. Part of my work is to coordinate Fashion Industry Charter for Climate Action, which is set with a vision to drive the fashion industry to net zero emissions no later than 2050. Business as usual was never a good strategy, not for the environment, not for the climate, not for the fashion industry, not for any sector. The Paris Agreement represents our team strategy, one with a clear goal to limit global temperature rise by the end of the century by 1.5 degrees Celsius. If we don't see significant and sustained emission reductions in the next 8 years, the window of opportunity to keep the planet safe will be closed forever. And if we are to get to a net zero carbon future, then all those involved in the sector, including entire supply chains of production through to distribution, must apply a climate lens to all buying and manufacturing decisions. We know fashion sector can do it. Using creativity and innovation, fashion industry changed to meet market demand when they needed to. They have stayed ahead of the competition. They have anticipated challenges. It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce you to an exciting panel discussion titled Innovative by Nature that will look into some of these topics. Enjoy.
So this panel is called Climate Action, Innovative by Nature. And I have to say that I'm very honored to moderate it because I truly believe that in nature we can find all the solutions we are looking for. And as a Brazilian, to talk about nature is to speak up for Amazon, for all the forests that have been burned, all the communities, all the indigenous communities, and for all of those who are fighting for life and nature. just because life it is nature. And well, I also believe fashion is a transformative tool, and the fashion industry must take action urgently. So fashion has to walk in step with nature. So this is why we are here today. And so to start this conversation, I would just like to ask Tricia about Lenzing, because Lenzing already has a strategic commitment to be climate neutral by 2050, right? And so what's the company's current contribution to the climate and to Goal 13?
Thanks, Fernanda. It's great to be here today, and wonderful opening and the remarks. For Lenzing, what we've been working on currently is really based off of what we've been developing and setting our goals. And this goes back several years. And like any goals that you're trying to set, you first have to have an assessment, and you have to figure out what your plans are going forward. So it was actually in 2018 that we signed the UNFCCC, where we started to really define a lot of our climate goals. And then it was in 2019 that we had our science-based targets approved. And that process can take quite a long time, and I know that several of you here, several of your companies are also working through that process. And then it was actually in 2020 when the CDP gave us an A ranking for climate. So those were some of the activities that happened in the past that led us to where we are today, and some of our achievements that we had for 2021. And I'll just highlight three of them that I think are most notable. And that's how we set aside an investment of 200 million euros in the next year for our production sites in China and Indonesia, where we can have a climate impact reduction. We also have 4 of our 8 sites are now using 100% renewable electricity from the grid. So anywhere that we can, we're looking to make that impact site by site and look at where we can have reduction. And very proud to say that it was actually the beginning of this year in 2022 that we opened the world's largest lyocell production facility with 100,000 tons of tensile lyocell. And that is using sustainable biogenic energy, making carbon neutral operations for our scope 1 and 2, and that we opened in Thailand in March of this year. So all of these steps that we've had, so it's setting our goals and then moving into action. And we continue to have our CDP ranking. In fact, this year we had a AAA ranking for climate, water, and forestry. So it's really lining up everything, and it's definitely a key focus for Lenzing. And any way that we can in establishing our goals and working on the progress each year.
It is a very inspiring work. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I would like to ask Mara Hoffman about Mara. Do you believe fashion brands can create a positive impact on the environment? And what examples do you have from your own business?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. This is, right? Didn't I?
Maybe just.
How's this? Yeah. Hi. First of all, thank you so much. This is still wild. And what an inspiring group of people to be sitting with, and to hear Tracy. So beautiful. Yes, I absolutely believe that we can make enormous changes within this industry. And there are so many ways to do it. For my company, we only started this work in 2015. So about 7 years ago, and that was when the company was 15 years old. So we spent a big portion of our growing and learning in a more conventional way of running a fashion business. But when we made that shift, our whole world changed, and it was enough proof, even in the small initiatives in the beginning, to show that this is a possible path for any brand to take if we could do it, regardless of the size. So some of our activations, all of our activations have really been led by a very inspired and dedicated team of people, that we're an independently run company and have been since the beginning, so we continue to be very scrappy and small, relatively small. So everything has been about learning as we go, and kind of that idea of, you know, what aches at you the most, you follow. Like what breaks your heart the most, you go that way. And so you try and figure out from that place, because if you're not inspired by something or you don't feel passionate about it, there will be no consistency, you'll lose interest. So we began and put a ton of focus on our fibers, as Tracy spoke about with her business, and the importance of that. We prioritize our materials and what we try to use. For example, recycled natural fibers, organic fabrics, working with Trisha and her amazing team on innovative fabrics, which is so inspiring because it keeps us in that space of creativity and being able to not feel limited with the same fabrics every season, but the work that they're doing gives us space to run. So the fabrics are huge. Our relationship with our factories and being present with them and choosing who to work with based on how important it is for them to be in alignment with the same goals and reducing their carbon footprint as well. Choosing where we manufacture, where our raw materials are coming from, trying to shorten that shipping. Being aware of that. What else? A few initiatives that are pretty recent for us is an initiative called Full Circle. We built a peer-to-peer platform on our website that gives our customers the option to sell their pre-loved Mara Hoffman pieces to each other. So working on our circularity and giving the things that we make longer life, which is really important, and also being able to invite more people into our world with an easier price point. That is a really exciting one. And our first version of that was a take-back program where we did repairs and reselling of that, and then it grew into Full Circle, which is exciting. We also very recently, well, in 2020, which was kind of amazing, started a climate beneficial collection where the fiber to the final product is all made in the United States, and we're working with a farm in California, a regenerative farm in California that sequesters carbon, which is amazing. There's a lot of things. There are so many initiatives, really. To the smaller things, again, same as Tracy, when you're running a company, what happens within those walls, what happens in your studio space, how you're taking care of what feels like the smaller things, but they're the important things of your day-to-day, how you're in conversation with your team in those actions.
Beautiful. Taking care of who make our clothes, I do believe is the most important. And well done. Mara Hoffman is a good example that fashion can be beautiful and go towards a more sustainable future. And well, now I would like to ask Stephanie, CEO and founder of Queens of Raw, that is a marketplace to buy and sell sustainable and that stock fabrics and textiles. So Stephanie, well, we know that excess production and consumption is a big issue in fashion sector. So tell us more about that and how your own business can help to mitigate this issue.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Benedetto, and I'm the Queen of Raw. And I'm on a mission to solve the world's water crisis. And my focus is fashion and textiles, which by some accounts, although it's controversial, is the #2 polluter in the world of clean water globally. And according to the World Wildlife Fund, this is one statistic that really resonated with me. If we continue at the current pace of textile production, by 2025, 2/3 of the entire world's population will face shortages of fresh water and be exposed to hazardous chemicals from textile production alone. So we're not talking about 100 years from now. We're not talking about 50 years from now. We're talking about today and on our shores. But if you kind of flip that on its head, it also means that fashion and textiles have the power to solve the world's water crisis if we rethink how we do things. So to get into the issue of unused inventory and dead stock, which is what we tackle, every single year, $288 billion worth of unused textiles just sit in warehouses collecting dust or being burned or sent to landfill. And as I'm sure you can imagine, this supply chain waste matters today more than ever. More unused inventory than ever before because of canceled orders, closed stores, missed seasons and collections. And I like to say that volume, right? Waste is not just environmentally irresponsible. This is a CFO issue. And so, as you heard, that's what my company, Queen of Raw, addresses. We built a marketplace along with integrated supply chain software. So anyone, from a student maker, crafter, quilter, to the biggest brands and retailers in the world, can reuse, resell, recycle, and donate all that unused inventory. Keep it out of landfill and turn what would be pollution into profit. And the reason that I know about this problem and why I was inspired by it is my family's actually been in fashion and textiles for over 100 years. In 1896, my great-grandfather came over on a ship from Austria. He landed at Ellis Island, and he settled into the Lower East Side of New York. He was a Jewish immigrant chasing the American dream, and he had to make a living for his family. He came with nothing. So what did he do? He would find materials and supplies nearby, old fabrics and furs and things immigrants had brought over on the ships with them, but they weren't using anymore. And he would repurpose them by hand with minimal waste and minimal toxins, and he sold to local customers. And it was incredibly profitable, successful business. I was truly inspired by him, hearing the stories of how he did what he did. He didn't talk about it as sustainability, but of course, at the end of the day, that's what it was, right? It made sense. And that's how we think about what we're building and what we do. And the final piece I kind of wanted to mention is my why. Why do I do what I do? Well, by reducing textile waste, we've actually already saved over 1 billion gallons of water, and we feel like we're just getting started. It's actually enough clean water for 1.4 million people to drink around the world for 3 years. So I'm doing this for my children. I want them to have clean water to drink, clothes that aren't toxic to wear, and a planet to live on. And I know together we will change the world.
Beautiful. We're together changing. So, Tricia, you have a piece of cloth here. We want to know what is it?
Yes, well, since we are here for fashion, I had to bring something as an example to show. And this is actually how we've been working on bringing our carbon strategy right down to a product level. So in 2020, we launched our Carbon Zero Tencel. And actually, we had some support also from Lucia when we launched that. And it was not easy launching a new fiber and a new concept during the middle of the pandemic when everything was virtual. But we're actually able to produce a fiber that has zero carbon footprint. And we do this through reduction, engagement with the supply chain, as well as some offsets for where we're at right now and what we need to do to achieve zero carbon footprint. And we do this actually in a way that we can certify the fiber. So Natural Capital Partners is our certification partner. And it's been amazing to see how this can get out into the market. I know we talked about getting the SDGs out and implementing this and how many seasons we have left to do that. So this garment actually represents a product that's in the market right now. So from our launch in the end of 2020 to where we are now, this jean is from Jack Jones, which is a brand by Bestseller, and they are using our Carbon Zero Tencel. And I think when we look at what's happening here, and obviously this jean isn't using 100%, and they're not claiming that this jean has zero carbon footprint, but what they're doing is by incorporating some materials into their jean that does have zero carbon footprint, where we can start to look to lower, where it's progress over perfection. And I think the challenge that I see in working with many brands is that they want to be able to have this ultimate zero and no carbon footprint. And that's not where we are at right now. So let's take the materials that are available and start to make those steps and start to have that progress. Because when I hear from Stephanie, and I love your story, and it's always great to hear some of your comments, But if that's what your grandfather was doing 100 years ago, and you're now 100 years later trying to look at the solutions, where are we progressing in our industry if we're not moving fast enough and we're antiquated in the ways that we work? And so if we don't use this time now as the decade of action, if not now, when? And let's make that change so we don't go another 100 years. So it's wonderful to hear your story and how that can connect back with the progress we need to make.
Thank you. And well, I would like to Mara again. Mara, do you believe nature can give us the most innovative answers? And give me examples from your own experience.
Yes. So it's funny, I didn't really have this question, but I love this question. 100%. I feel that I had a really privileged experience to get to be in close proximity to nature during the pandemic, and that was one of the very positive things that happened to me during this experience. Was I left the city and I moved into nature, and it was through that experience of walking and initiating conversations with the trees that I live with that I shifted from a space of an intellectual space of the work that we are doing to this more intimate, from like skin to bone kind of understanding of the work we're doing. And I thought I could always say I have this, of course I love nature, I'm connected to nature, I'm the planet, we have to, all of this fire towards saving something. But after all of these years, it took me to get into my 40s after a crisis to actually be sitting within it and walking within it and having this shift that said, how can I heal this if I don't truly love this? And I've been thinking about that idea that we can't heal something we don't love, and what it actually means to put love onto something, and not in a hallmark or a romantic aspect of love, but love through action, love through discomfort, through sitting through those things that tear you apart, and where love steps in there. And so I've been really deeply fortunate to be placed in this situation, and I think it was extraordinarily necessary to put me in that place, because it shifted even in a small how I connect to my own work after all of these years. And so, yes, I think that nature is our ultimate guide. I feel deeply connected to the plants as my teachers, the plants, the animals, as our biggest teachers at this time on this planet. And so following that lead right now is essential. I think it's close to impossible with the level of noise that we're all living with. There's an extraordinarily high volume of noise with what we're actually trying to hold too, with the amount of trauma on a daily basis that we're consuming, that we're part of as a society. And so to actually separate ourselves from that, or find the moment that the willingness to step out of that, the willingness to quiet, is essential to this work, because healing ourselves is our only way out of it, and it begins on a very solo mission. In order to do it for the collective, we have to do it as individuals. So yes, the nature part's huge. If I answered that, I don't know.
Yes, beautiful. I totally agree. In nature, when I say that in nature we can find all the solutions. And studying sustainability, I see that circular economy is nature's, biomimicry is nature's design. So how many lessons we can learn, and you have to learn if you want to live. And Stephanie, I would like to ask you if you believe that we can fix this excess production issue without changing the whole fashion system.
Yeah. It's a great question, because obviously we're all here because we're passionate about change. We believe in change, But I do also believe in meeting the industry, consumers, companies where they are in order to bring about that change. And so when I think about the solution that we're building and the excess inventory problems that we're tackling, I think about people, planet, but also profit. And I think we can't forget to talk about the profitability of this for it to make economic sense for big companies to adopt, for customers to purchase that item. I think there's been this myth for so long that sustainability has to cost you more money to participate. The good news is that by focusing, for example, on a business's waste, you can sell it today, make money, and then take that money and put it back into doing good work in your supply chain. You can pay your workers more. You can adopt more technology solutions. You can use more sustainable materials. And you can do it without your overall CapEx expenditure going up. Now, isn't that, right, the best use case in how you can not only survive everything going on in the world today, but truly thrive? And so to more specifically answer your question, right, when we first started going to brands and retailers about our solution, it was seen as a nice to have, but not a have to have. Fast forward, of course, to today, and make a long story short, right, this has become a top 3 priority for every C-suite to address. And when we go to them, we're not telling them we're going to make you 100% sustainable from farm to finished good to end of life around again. I mean, that may be the ultimate goal, right, in the vision, but where do you go and what do you do on day one? How do you not get stuck in the mud and not take any action? And obviously, our position is starting with unused inventory. Dead stock is a clear place to start today, and then you can grow up and down the chain, right, and just do better from there. So, that's really how we like to think about solutions, to get people to adopt change and incentivize everyone to do better.
Amazing. So we still have 5 minutes. I would like to ask your final thoughts. Each one of you. Tricia, you first, please.
Yeah, I just think, when we look at SDGs and how we're going to approach this going forward, it all comes down to really the consumerism and the consumption to start with. So how are we addressing that as an industry? How is it always that on Instagram, every next generation person needs, a new outfit in order to really express themselves? How is consumerism really addressed, and what can be done in order to keep materials, to keep garments in circulation longer? That we actually go back to a time where it's garments that we treasure, that garments are something that we pass down from generation to generation, and not have this disposable society that seems to be prospering more, and really have that whole mind shift. So I think, that's where we have to look at, not just around what's happening with climate action, but bringing it back to circularity and collaboration. So the connection among the SDGs, whether it's SDG 13, 12, and 17 working together. And I think, this kind of parallels what you've also been talking about, Mara and Stephanie.
I think everyone's sitting in here because we're all aware that we're all being called to the really tough work right now. And that the comfier we get right now with the discomfort, the easier we're going to get through this thing. I think that within the fashion industry, we have an enormous amount of work to do. I feel inspired by what is happening through legislation and pushing new laws forward to protect those that are most devastated by the injustice within this industry, as well as climate change, who are going to be affected the most. I think that there is a lot still yet to be done, and that we have to find the way to hold at the same time grief and gratitude in either hand, and the gratitude for the potential that still exists. And it's really hard to stay in that potential, I think, when we're in the loop and we're receiving all of the information, but we wouldn't be here if the potential wasn't in front of us, within us right now. And so I think it's keeping ourselves in check in the exact present place and showing up to the work.
Yeah, definitely agree with everything that was said. And obviously, we're here together today in the nature of partnerships. And two partnerships I kind of wanted to mention that have been really meaningful in what we did and brought a lot of us in this room that I know together. One was the New York Circular City Initiative. We came together with H&M, Unilever, Cisco, Goldman Sachs, Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and a number of organizations. But the goal was to create a white paper. It is available online to show how many good jobs could be created and how much money could be saved and made by New York City going circular in the coming years. And so the goal is not to, change the laws and slap businesses with millions of dollars in liability on the books. It's to show companies and cities what kind of solutions are available to offset that coming legal liability. So I think those are kind of more the partnerships that we're excited to see come out of this room and that I know are being worked on. And the other one is we can do all this incredible work, but if we aren't speaking confidently in the public about what we're doing and communicating that to our consumers, then nobody knows what we're doing. We're holding it close to our chest, and I feel like a lot of companies have been afraid to talk about it, not the ones on this panel who I know are very bold in how they speak about it. It's amazing. But to get everyone to act, they need to be able to speak confidently about what they're doing. And there are some incredible reporting tools and impact measuring tools out there. We spent the past year with MIT building one for the fashion and textile industry so that by all the good actions a business does, they can report and prove the amount of water, chemicals, carbon emissions, waste, and dollars saved by what they did, but taking it a step further, also giving them not just the record and proof, but the QR code so that their customers can scan that garment and see, you can see at point of purchase, or when you're making a decision about what to buy, the impact that you have by purchasing in that. And I think that level of transparency and communication, it's where we're going, it's accessible, it's possible, and it's how we can all participate in the greater solution.
Thank you so much. Thank you, you all. It was a pleasure to be together here. We keep moving towards a more sustainable future, a more sustainable fashion system, good for people, for planet, for nature, for climate. And we are one, so let's do it. Thank you so much.
Big thank you. Big thank you to Fernanda. Big thank you to Fernanda, Trisha, Mara, and Stephanie. Right now, we're going to have a special message from Gabriella Hurst, founder of Gabriella Hurst and creative director of Chloe. Our AV team are upstairs. 1 second. Where's Lucia? Call her. Thank you for your patience. Thank you.
Hello, this is Gabriella Hurst. I'm sorry I cannot be in person, but I didn't want to miss the opportunity to contribute with a message of what my research, my views, and my work these years have taken me to believe that the issues that we have in our fashion industries are the same issues that are shared among all industries. It's our dependency to fossil fuels. 85% of our world industry moves based on fossil fuels, and that needs to stop. Then it's our overproduction and overconsumption. This happens in all industries, and the need for conservation and rehabilitation of our environment. The good news is that with commitment, there are several paths, and this is what I'm really focused in informing and communicating to climate success. I think it's time to visualize how climate success looks like, because we can all visualize how the climate catastrophe looks like because we're experiencing it. But climate success will take several paths, and one of those is delimitations of territory for conservation and rehabilitation, rewilding, that these have to be intergovernmental agreement that these pieces of land cannot be commoditized. That will be one path. Let's give our environment a place to rehabilitate itself. Number two, we need sources of energy that can take the capacity that fossil fuels is taking right now. The intermittent renewable energies that we have, wind and solar, in my opinion, are not able to take that as of now. So we really need to focus on different energies such as fission, fusion, hydrogen, and nuclear. I am a big proponent of fusion energy for clean energy, and I think it's around the corner. And then we also have to have a movement that empowers women, because I'm convinced that without women in power positions, a lot of these changes will not occur, because there's a natural empathy to our gender. And I think that we're great administrators and politicians. And so female empowerment is a real important part on climate success. So this is my message, and I hope that we're on our way to achieve this. Thank you so much.
Excellent. So now I'd like to welcome up Responsible Consumption and Production, Designing for Our Times, that will be moderated by Tara Donaldson, Executive Editor at Women's Wear Daily.
Hello, everyone. I'm honored to be here. I am joined by some wonderful panelists today. First, Pinar de Mirel, Marketing and Communications Manager for Chalik Denim. And then we have Jean Hegedus, Director of Sustainability for the Lycra Company, Neda Eneva, CMO for Arch and Hook, and Patrick McDowell, founder of Patrick McDowell and Sustainability Design Director at Pinko. So, you know, we live in a time where there are lots of sustainability buzzwords and lots of loose definitions for all of them. So in honor of our panel title, I'd love to just hear from you all on what is responsible consumption and production to you?
Hi, everyone. I think it hinges upon the idea of being more efficient with less. So responsible production is about adopting, circular systems. I mean, after all, as a business, you have to produce a product or create a service, but goods and services must be produced in a way to minimize, pollution and waste. But that is about circularity. But when it comes to responsible consumption, I think it extends beyond buying better, less greener products. It also it includes considering the considering the environmental, social, health, and economic impacts of a product or service. And on the other hand, I think businesses should also establish criteria for responsible consumption when developing products, because the products or services shouldn't be only about eco-innovative materials or sustainable production processes. I mean, businesses should definitely set criteria for for designing the products at the very beginning stage. I mean, they should also consider the further steps in the supply chain, I believe, when they consume the products.
So we have the benefit of having someone from all different parts of the supply chain. So, Jean, what's your answer?
Yeah, so I think in terms of responsible production, we sort of look at it in terms of the who, the what, and the how. So first of all, with the who, looking at your employees and the communities where you operate and your supply chains, right? And making sure that you're treating them well, you're treating them ethically, compensating them fairly. And then being aware of certainly the communities where you operate and supporting those communities. And then I think in terms of the what, it's what are you making? What are the ingredients that are going into that product? Making sure that they're safe, making sure that you're having them certified by third parties, I think is also important to gain that trust of your customers. And then when we look at the how, it's how do you make this with the lowest possible footprint? So it's really making sure that you're not creating a lot of waste in your process, trying to have the highest first pass yield that you possibly can, and also being mindful of what you're using in your process. And then on the consumer side, on the consumption side, I think a lot of it is really about how do we educate consumers. First of all, we have to have the consumers being aware of how to make choices that are sustainable, right? And today, we've just completed some consumer research, and one of the things we know is that there's a lot of confusion among consumers about what is really sustainable and where can I find sustainable clothing. So as an industry, we need to probably do a better job of that. And then, once the consumer has made that choice, then how do we get them to wear garments longer? So that we're getting really the longevity that we want out of that garment and helping that garment to realize its potential in terms of having a lower footprint. So I think it's really a dual kind of challenge that we have.
Thank you, Tara. So for us at Arch & Hook is about adopting a holistic approach to this challenge. Where we operate is in the environment around the product. So what is called the goods not to resell category. If you want true sustainability to future-proof circularity, you have to look at the entire value chain. So we talk a lot about the product, we talk a lot about the garment. But what is the garment transported on? What is it packaged in? What is it displayed on? So for us, sustainability can only be achieved if you look at it holistically. One of the most important things for us in this, the future-proof transformation and looking forward is also to look back. It is incredible to see fantastic material innovation initiatives and breakthrough successes in the last years and decade in terms of biodegradables, organic materials. But at the end of the day, which is fantastic and it's very important to make sure that the materials we use in the future are circular and sustainable. But the fact of the matter is there is a plastic waste problem, which is not going away. And for us, the most important thing, or it is equally important to take accountability and to take action to integrate that back into the economy. We cannot just look at materials that are, designed to be future-proof. We need to take accountability and integrate back materials, raw materials such as plastic, post-consumer plastic waste, and recycle that back into the value chain. And addressing businesses in that way would also be, take into account your product post-life. We're here at the UN, it's all about cross-sector collaboration, but who is accountable for the waste that is currently existing, but also the waste that we are all, the industry is accumulating. Is it the brand? Is it the manufacturer? Is it the consumer? Is it the government? And I think Responsible consumption has to come when we're all aligned and we're working together on the entire value chain and essentially contributing with results in that area.
For me, it's really about acknowledging that we're in a system that's flawed, but also acknowledging that that system is very much alive. And it's about thinking how we can change this from the inside out. How can we revolutionize the fashion business model and bring everyone with us whilst we do it? Because that's a really important part that everybody that's involved is kind of on the journey too. And as designers, how can we redesign and change towards a place where we holistically think about sustainability and what that really means?
So, Patrick, as our representative designer on the panel, how do we do that? How do we design for our times? And, you know, especially when we know how crucial it is for fashion to dial back its footprint. What's your thought process? How do you begin? What do you think of, you know, when it comes to your own brand, and how do you think of it in relation to Pinko?
So I think, first of all, you have to think creatively. I think the product has to speak to people and it has to make them feel a strong emotional connection. I think in general now we all want to connect, and that extends to clothing too. Post-pandemic, we've seen clients wanting something different and special, and I think that's really important, that we're designing pieces that people really love and people will cherish. Even if it's a t-shirt, it can still be super special. It can still fit really well and feel amazing. And for me, that's what fashion's all about anyway. It's about emotion and connection, how those clothes make you feel. With my own brand, it's been incredible to find ways to not only design the clothing, but also the systems they sit within, and to work with so many different brands and mills in the fashion industry to create really beautiful pieces out of things that they previously would have seen as waste. Which has been amazing. And I always try to keep my grandmother in mind. She was born in 1923 in a mining town in England, and she just did these things out of necessity, you know. And I always think if we can try and go back to some of the ideas that she had, that all of those people lived with because they had to, and combine those with technology now, we could create something really amazing for the future. And then with Pinko, it's been a really amazing journey. For 2 years now, I've been their Sustainability Design Director, which is kind of a really amazing role which combines design and sustainability, which isn't always the case. And it's been really powerful because we've proved that on a global scale across multiple territories, we can redesign and remake past season pieces of clothing and fabric into a commercially viable collection. And right now that's really important because we need these case studies in the industry to prove to everyone that actually, yes, they can do it too, and it is possible, and these things can sell and have a much lower footprint. And I'm not saying that any of this is perfect, but it's a really great start. And yeah, I'm super excited about it. I'm so happy to be working in the industry at the moment because as a designer, my role has opened up to be so much wider than it would have been if I was doing this 20 years ago. So I think it's a really inspiring time to be a fashion designer.
I agree. I think grandmothers always know best, so more of us should pay attention to that. So we've talked about the concept stage with design. Jean, how important do you think it is for the industry to do more to focus on sustainability from the fiber level?
Yes, I think actually it's very important. And as a few of the previous panelists indicated, at the fiber level, that's where certainly a lot of the impact lies. Okay, so making those choices and understanding what you're purchasing is really important. So is something, you know, is it recycled? Is it renewable? Or is it virgin? Because there can be a huge amount of difference in the impact that occurs there. How long does that fiber will it last? Is it very durable? Because we want it to last for a long time, right? So clothes today can have more than one owner. And then finally, what is its impact at end of life? How do you dispose of it at end of life? And can it be recycled recyclable back into garments. So it was a lot of those types of considerations that led us to, last year we introduced a new fiber in our Coolmax and Thermalite range that is now made from 100% textile waste. So we've had for many years Coolmax fibers that were made from recycled PET, but we really felt that it's important to start looking at how do we close our own loop. And so we are working with our partner, Itochu. We are collecting textile waste from known garment makers in China, 100% polyester or polyester-rich fabrics. We are taking those, depolymerizing them, and then respinning that back into new fiber at 100% concentration. The nice thing about this process is that every time you do it, you get virgin-like quality. So you're not, the quality isn't going down, and that will allow that garment to be recycled many, many times. So I think, understanding what fibers you're using and what the impact of them really is very critical to the what the impact of the final garment will be.
So, Pinar, denim for a long time was seen as the most gross polluter in fashion. And I know a lot of people, Trisha included, have been fighting against that. But it has really come a long way in terms of being a leader, a category leader in sustainability. And even when you look at the Chalik website, it looks like you're selling an environmental product, not a fashion product. So how have you taken something that was once negative and made it a positive for the environment, or at least less negative?
Less negative. Thanks for the question. Let me start from the beginning because it's about our sustainability journey, because I think there are several reasons for this positive perception, let's say, at least. But I have been working at Chalik Denim for almost 12 years. And even before I started to the company, I know that many, many years ago, in R&D department, they have been trying to find solutions for responsible production. But I think one of the best things that the company has done is the Chalik Denim avoided from greenwashing from the very beginning. We never said that we are the most sustainable mill. We never said that we are the greenest one. First, you have to prove it, so it's not, we are aware that, we can't prove or improve anything without measuring. So we focused on this for the years, and we developed our own system called Transparency Monitoring System. And we have installed devices to each machine at the factory to, track everything and to improve everything immediately. So we can measure all the resources that we use for each fabric, like, energy, water, and chemical and everything. So first, we focused on measuring to improve the stages, production stages. But 7 years ago, we realized that we needed a strategy. So we needed a kind of, structure or, proper mechanism to follow. And we determined our sustainability strategy as Passion for Denim, Passion for Life. And we set our goals for 2025. And under this structure, we formed our sustainability committee. And we have 5 different working groups and each group is working on different, targets and, goals. And every month we get together and we check everything, all the projects, and every quarterly we report this to the management. So we really stick to the, we follow very carefully. And so I think, measuring and, doing improvements really helped us. And also, we have shared everything very transparently with our stakeholders through our website, as you said, through our social media, and of course with our sustainability reports that we issue in every 2 years. So this transparency, in the communication way as well, it really helped us to build this, positive, let's say, perception. And collaborations also really helped us. sectoral and cross-sectoral collaborations. For example, recently we have done a collaboration with Kings of Indigo, an Aware company. And thanks to the technology that Aware has, the special particles added into the recycled fiber in the content of our fabric, and you can certify the fabric through blockchain system. And you can track everything starting from the cotton to the final stage. And with Kings of Indigo, we created a beautiful collection. And we also gave access to the consumers so they can track everything through, reading the QR code on the hang tags of the products. So which is great. And also another collaboration we have done is a cross-sectoral collaboration though, with a composite company in Turkey. We try to turn our non-recyclable wastes into composite material that can be used in different industries. So we also focus on collaborations, and we share all the challenges and problems though with our stakeholders in a transparent way. And as an eco-innovative oriented company, also as Jean said, fiber selection, raw material selection is really critical. And we work with lycra, lensing, and of course we also focus on cotton alternatives like hemp, linen, knitted, and so on. But also recently, regenerative cotton is another hot topic right now, and we focus on this. We support regenerative agriculture and cotton production. And very soon we will be able to produce regenerative cotton in Turkey, in Urfa, with one of our sister companies, Çalık Cotton. And we are investing in this. And also I can share here that another brand new project that we are establishing recycling facility in Turkey, in Malatya, very close to our factory. Because recycling is a vital component when it comes to circularity. And so we really believe in collaborations, because we need to build transformative solutions all together. Collective action is a must. This is what we believe. So to sum up, when you have this strategy, your goals, your path, and you share everything with the challenges and problems you face with the stakeholders in a transparent way, I think you turn this negative perception to positive, I believe.
So there's certainly no shortage of things to think about when it comes to responsible consumption. Netta, with a sustainable hanger brand, you're definitely thinking of one part of it. Do you feel like enough of the fashion industry has taken their thought process around responsible consumption to that level?
Thank you. Yeah, certainly there is a way to go. For us, there's a kind of a staged answer to that question. What we've also seen through B2B research, which we've conducted with academic partners, is there is certainly a lack of awareness and prioritization when it comes to sustainable strategies in the goods not for resale category, in purchasing and procurement within fashion retail. To take hangers as an example, which is one small thing, but such a high volume, high impact commodity. What we've seen, for example, in a market like the UK through our research is that only 15% of the companies we spoke to cite recyclability as the reason for purchasing, and almost 70% of the respondents actually had no idea what happens to the hangers afterwards. So it's these kind of items or challenges that are within the companies themselves. I think are some of the key obstacles that we are trying to solve as a company with our partners. How can we help them understand the need for this holistic approach of material selection, of just looking at the entire retail environment. And it definitely spans beyond hangers. So, if you're looking at all your commodities around the product, around the garment, what is really important as a next step, apart from internal education, apart from understanding your full impact of the waste you're creating, not just from the product, but from the things that help ship that product, that help package that product, help display this product. Always, and we've heard that a lot, and it's very inspiring in terms of the products themselves, but, think of the second life. What happens after I use this hanger, after I use this display counter, after I use this packaging? And we firmly believe that if you take the approach of, I'm going to engineer my store in a way that I can reuse everything in the store for my next collection, for my next display. Use less boats, recycle it, reuse it. That has to extend to the entire environment of fashion. So, design for second life, design for longevity and reuse when it comes to your entire value chain, and I think that would certainly really speed up and escalate the improvement of the sustainable impact that fashion retail companies have, and the consumers are ready for it. Again, through stakeholder research, we're finding that also when it comes to the retail environment, consumers are starting to pay attention to that. And 2 out of 3 consumers that we have been privileged enough to research in markets like the US and UK are saying, do you know what, I'm actually quite conscious of the holistic sustainability impact that the brands I shop at have, and I am willing to, and I would choose a shop that has, or a chain that has significantly less impact, and I'm even willing to pay more if that means that we'll have better impact altogether.
So since our overall aim is to talk about solutions, Tracy, there's maybe one hanger solution for you to consider. So Patrick, I'm going to put you in the hot seat and see if you can solve one of our biggest problems. We talk about whether it's overproduction or overconsumption that's the problem, which is obviously a bit of a conundrum, because if the demand is there, the companies are going to produce. If the product is there, the consumers are going to buy. How do we solve this riddle?
Yeah, it's a hard one. It's like the chicken and egg question, I think. And we won't ever actually know the answer. So I think the best thing, and it's been said before today, is to just start. Just to start and to do something, and that we all have to together take action to move away from the idea of a linear business model. And the reality of that is that businesses have a bigger impact than individuals and can make a bigger change. And business everywhere needs to be hiring creative thinkers that can redesign their business models for them. It's amazing what creative minds can do. Of course, I would say that because I'm a designer, but I really believe that designers don't only have to design clothes, but can redesign all parts of the fashion business. And this extends beyond fashion. All businesses all around the world need to rethink how they're doing things now, and that really comes from creative thinking, and then that goes back to education, really, and it's about creatively educating everyone at every age to rethink all of our futures and create something new that actually works, and in the meantime create something that has much less impact. And I think that's the key to a better future, really.
Well done. Jean, Lycra actually started on its sustainability journey before the whole industry was on board, or at least willing to greenwash. So 2008 was your sustainability framework. Right. What have been your learnings since then, and what is your feeling about the state of things now?
Great. So, yes, we started back in 2008. We launched what we call our Planet Agenda, our sustainability platform, and that's really based on the belief that to have a healthy business, you have to have a healthy planet as well. And we started pretty basic, I would say, back in 2008. We started with looking at how could we reduce some of our energy consumption to reduce emissions. And we started out with some basic new products. So we launched our Coolmax EcoMade at the time, which is our cooling fiber, but made from 100% recycled PET. And what we found was we had a few customers at the time who were interested in that, who were willing to, take the leap and start moving in a more sustainable direction. But then it kind of just plateaued, I would say, for a while. And so, one of the things I would say is, definitely you have to sort of stay the course and not give up. And within, I'd say the last 4 years is when we've really seen the most growth in more sustainable products. So today, if we look at our Coolmax business, it is over 65% today is made from recycled product. I think the industry average for polyester is somewhere around 15, so it's well ahead of some other places. But we had a similar experience on the Lycra side. In 2014, we announced we were the first ones to make a bio-based Lycra fiber that was derived from industrial corn. And we had a lot of initial, flurry of excitement, and then people were kind of saying, oh, but it's only a small % of my product, and, Lycra is always the minority ingredient, so right now I have to focus on the cotton part or the polyester part, whatever was the main fiber. And now, how many years later, 8 years later, we're getting a lot more demand for that kind of thing. So I think some of it is have the courage to kind of stay the course and stick with it. And then I think now, today, every brand, every retailer has sustainability goals that they're all trying to fulfill. I think that's why we're starting to see that increased demand. So certainly the industry is moving in the right direction. We all want to move faster. We all want to go further than we are today. But now I think as companies are making public commitments, they have to live up to those commitments, and that's why we're starting to see a lot more interest.
So, Netta, do you think we can get to a place where the majority of the industry is using sustainable hangers and sustainable fixtures? And what is that transition? What is that going to take to get from where we are now to there?
I mean, I'm the eternal optimist for sure. And I think everybody here is, and we would be, otherwise we wouldn't be here. The state of the fact of the matter is that at the moment, there's still a way to go, especially in the field that we try to support companies in. Just to build up on the story of the hanger, if you look at furniture and fixtures in the retail environment, associations like the Shop Association are saying that actually something between 50 and 85% of fixtures and display installations are ending up in landfills just by definition. So I think one of the, kind of to reiterate it again, one of the key things would be to increase transparency and internal kind of in-house education, and to be honest, maybe even cross kind of departmental communication. It will be incredibly important to connect the different aspects of the business and the operational impact and footprint to be able to achieve this holistic positivity that we need. And somebody mentioned it earlier, and I think it's very important. Of course, it has to be a successful business at the end of the day, and you don't have to take my word for it to say that will contribute to successful business, even if it's not the actual direct product you're selling to the consumer. There have been research, for example, by McKinsey and KPMG that are finding that actually if you invest in sustainable approach and reassessment of your goods not for resale category as a retailer or as a direct-to-consumer brand, you will actually improve your bottom line. You're going to minimize costs in the long run. You're going to improve your margins. And back to the consumer, actually, you will improve that consumer experience and consumer, direct-to-consumer engagement, which will, of course, eventually lead to profit and growth. And how you would achieve that? I mean, reassess your risks. We're gonna have to be sustainable if we're gonna make it, if we're gonna be here in 50 years. So, look at the costs of now versus then, and how much, can you make small changes but significant changes today, instead of delaying that for cost, for operational purposes. So kind of, understand the longer term risks are so much bigger than the current, for example, bottom line assessments that a lot of businesses are doing. And I think that's a really key mindset shift that we all need to do.
Okay, we're going to close with a nice bite-sized takeaway solution for everyone. Pinar, starting with you, what do you think is the most substantial thing the industry can do in the next year to reduce its waste? And same question for everyone.
Well, I think we need to think smart when we create our products. We need to consider cutting-edge technologies that support circular systems, because circular systems are the goal and offer the most promise when it comes to reintroduce waste to supply chain. So incentives, regulations, education, transparency are the all key tenets to overcome the issues around waste and the many other issues that we face.
Jean?
I think also as a manufacturer, the first thing is to try to make as little waste as possible to start out, right? And then make sure that you're looking at waste holistically. So, so you're looking at the whole life cycle of the product and not just the waste that you're creating, but where does it go at the end of its life?
I would say just don't delay, don't delay doing something about it. Endorse and empower in-house entrepreneurship, create this one team that will be able to do something concrete on minimizing your waste, on interjecting the use of virgin plastics, for example, and just make it happen. So take a small step, but take a concrete step, and then make sure to benchmark it and align. I think share that with the rest of us, because as said already, we need to stay aligned and kind of coordinated on all of these actions to ensure that we're all walking the same path together.
Patrick, last word.
For me, it's about creating pieces that are really thought through and desirable initially, and to trial new ways of experiencing fashion. Look at the possibility of only making what your customer actually wants to buy, and invest now in finding brilliant creative minds, because if you don't, I really don't think there will be a bright future for your business.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I don't hold up any time as my microphone's getting fixed. I just want to thank our panelists very much. And then I would like to welcome to the stage Jasmine Malik-Tua of Sourcing and Label Editor at Sourcing Journal, and Alfredo Ferrer, CEO of Recover. Thank you.
Leave it on. Okay. It'll make a clicking noise.
Okay, is this working? Okay, great. Hi, I'm Jasmine. I'm the Sourcing and Labor Editor at Sourcing Journal, but I'm also a huge textile nerd, so I'm super delighted to be able to talk with Alfredo here, who is the CEO of Recover. And during lunch, I mentioned to Alfredo, I said, you've been in business for 70 years. And he corrected me, it's 75 years. So, Alfredo, tell us more for the people in the audience who don't know, what is Recover? What have you been doing for nearly 8 decades?
Well, thanks for inviting us to be here in this fantastic event. I'm actually a fourth-generation member of a family that started the business, the textile business, 104 years ago. The second generation started the Recover business in a moment where the cotton was not available because of the two big wars in Spain, the Civil War and the Second World War. So this was not because of a visionary thing on my ancestors, was simply a question of necessity. So a brief history is, starting 75 years ago, very basic products, only using also very, very basic recycling technology existing in that moment for other kind of applications like woolen blankets. And then the third generation, that means my dad, started to, let's say, make a more sophisticated product, going to the apparel business. And my dedication to the business was to put it on a more international place and think on what is today the current Recover project. That is just to scale it to be definitely one of the leading fiber companies in the world. So this is a brief history, but I think is telling what is happening.
Yeah, so it's interesting. It was born of necessity, and I feel like we're in another period of necessity, that this is something that needs to happen right now if we're to ensure the survival of our planet. So, through the decades, how have attitudes towards recycled fibers changed over the years? I mean, you must have witnessed a huge shift.
Well, the change has been more the mentality to sell a product just to survive and simply be a competitive product in a difficult region like is Spain, Europe, with high labor costs, etc. To understand that the real value of this product was the impacts, the environmental impacts. This has been the big change in our selling policies. I think that this was the real moment where we understood that we had a real valuable project in our hands, and the only thing that we needed is just make it much bigger. And the reason is because you can have a fantastic product, you can have a brilliant product that has a fantastic environmental impact, but if you don't have the volume, you will only do some capsule programs. You will not be scaling this product to make this a real impact to the environment or to the planet. So this is basically the change of how to really market it and how to consider this as an important product for the future sustainable textile industry.
Right, and there's that proverb, if you want to go far, you can fast. You go by yourself. If you want to go far, you go together. So speaking about the importance of aggregating enough fiber to have the volumes necessary, how important are collaborations with brands, retailers, and other stakeholders helping you scale your platform globally?
Well, they inspired us. Basically, when we started to talk to them more directly about this recycled cotton fiber, Recover was starting to be interesting for them, and then they said, the pity is that you don't have enough volume for developing programs for us, at least for the big volume products. So they inspired us to think in a plan to scale it. And I think that finally, after the marriage, if we can say this word, with with private equity firm Story 3 that believed in the project and made a fantastic approach to us to create a real project together. We won't be able to supply them. So right now we have a very, very strong collaboration with them. They are committed to adopt our fiber in the different programs. And I think that we can do a fantastic work together. And many brands, Primark, for instance, that is here, and others, Uniqlo, etc., they will be the ones that really make this thing happen, right?
Yeah. Why don't you tell the audience, like, what is the scope of your current operations and how you're planning to really expand that, globally?
Well, the plan is, I would say, the mother company, and everything started is in Spain, and then we have the plan to have facilities in Pakistan, in Vietnam, and Bangladesh. Bangladesh will be the most important hub in our project, then Vietnam. And then we have also plans for Central America and other countries like Turkey, India, and others.
Are there still a lot of misconceptions about recycled fibers these days?
Well, I hope not. I think that the original idea about recycled products was, okay, this is not exactly the quality, this is not exactly the first quality product. Today, I think that we have demonstrated that this is not true. One of the key things to really have, to have an opportunity to work in textile industry is that the product has to be cost neutral.
Yeah.
And of course, the quality has to be comparable to the quality of the conventional products. And we have achieved that, and this is why we're growing, because we have passed all the proof of concepts and went to the next level. So this concept was original concept when my father was in the business, but I tried to demonstrate that this is not an option right now.
Yeah.
Why? Because we are investing, Recovery is investing a lot of their budget in innovation.
Yeah.
Is the key part of this, because you have to keep a longer stable quality fiber to be able to manufacture any kind of products in the market. So I think this is key.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier, how innovation is really so critical. In the past, it used to be that you couldn't have 100% recycled cotton. You would need to blend it with virgin to really have the quality. But now that has changed a little. We're seeing a lot more of 100% on the market.
It's changing every minute.
Yeah.
I think the innovation progress we have had in the last 2 years is equivalent to the previous 10 years. And this is happening because, we are, Recovery is now having on board a big amount of talent that we have found everywhere in the world. I can say it with just more than 110 people. We are more than 13 nationalities working together. I think COVID also helped, because working from the distance today is a possibility. But this talent is helping to make a real big progress on the quality of the fiber and also the integration with other industries to create, I would say, a zero waste environment. I think that circularity is a concept that everybody talks about. I think that we are an example of a circular company. And Recovery is thinking that can be integrated even with the chemical recycling industry by exchanging raw materials that are not usable in our world can be usable in the other world. And at the same time, by talking to Teresa during lunch, I think that the combination of different types of sustainable products is a very good option, is a winner option, because you combine different options and with the different performances just to create a very, very sustainable product at the end.
So you mentioned what makes you really attractive to working with brands is that you're able to stay cost competitive. How are you able to do that?
Again, by necessity, we had to do that just to stay a little bit longer and in the business. I think that creating I would say a high volume in company, a high volume production makes that this economy of scale works.
Yeah.
Also, by investing in what we call the tech support, this helps our customers to adopt the fiber in the best conditions, optimizing the manufacturing process, and therefore reducing the cost of the process. And of course, by innovation, making whatever extra things in the process to create a cheaper or less expensive product.
Absolutely. And you've been doing this for so long. What are the biggest lessons that you have learned during your sustainability journey that you can share with others who might be just beginning theirs?
Well, that this is a long journey.
Yeah.
First of all, it's a marathon, right? But just following the words of William McDonough, that was the father of the cradle-to-cradle concept. The adoption it works at the speed of trust. So brands, retailers have to trust in the product, and consumers have to trust in the product. I think it's an important part of this journey, that we have to empower the consumers to really understand what they are buying.
Yeah.
We have to create a demand, and this is only by education, by information. I think that they have to know exactly what is the content of the product that they buy, and also understand what kind of impacts, environmental impacts, these products are having. Very similar what happened with the food some decades ago, with the nutritional facts and nutrition facts, and also things including the organic food, etc. I think that this has to happen also on the fashion products and the textile products to create more demand. I think is very important. So also I learned what we have been talking today a lot is about teaming up with brands, retailers, and consumers. And that innovation is key on this process, definitely, that you have to be global. You have to be everywhere, very close to customers. In our case, also close to the waste streams, that is post-consumer and post-industrial. And that nothing is impossible. That you have to fight for it, but if you have a good team and you are having the capital support to do this, I understand it's also very important. You can do everything.
Yeah, you can't do this alone. And on that note, thank you so much, Alfredo. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you very much.
Has it worked? No. It is on. Hello? All right. Okay, thank you so much, Jasmine and Alfredo. So now actually we're going to take a 10-minute break. So answer your phone, whatever you want to do, say hi, stretch your legs, but we'll see you back here at 4 o'clock, okay?